Yo, change that beat up.
Je veux que tu saches. Need the mic from here to there? Yeah, I can talk louder.
In-person meetings since COVID, and it is good to see everyone in person. I also want to acknowledge all of the people who are on the online who are watching us. I know that we have folks that are on Zoom watching us, and we also have, this meeting will also be live streamed through Facebook as well. So greetings to all of you all. We hope that you all are interactive in the room as well as in the chat. I do want to give special acknowledgement to our host today for this meeting, to Banyan Tree Project, Mr. J. Carl Devine. For those of us who are in the room and virtually, can you just give him a round of applause, please? Thank you so much for hosting us today. And we're going to have a good meeting. It's going to be an interactive meeting. If you got a problem, see me after the meeting, okay? But we ain't going to have no problems, right? All right. So at this time, we're going to turn it over to Mr. Chris Walker, who will be facilitating this meeting. So everybody in the room, give him a round of applause.
Thank you, Darius and Sherry. Thank you all for being here, both virtually and also in person. Hello. So we'll be getting started now. I'm looking for my notes somewhere, but we'll be fine. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have quite an agenda for you today. We're very excited for you to hear many of our guest speakers and many of the reports that we have that are relevant to Pinellas EHE and to the Pinellas County in general. So I won't go through the entire agenda because you all can read. So, but I do want to cover some highlights, some of which include STI trends and monkeypox report. We'll also be having a very informative presentation by Ms. Leisha McKinley Beach on PrEP and Risk to Reasons, which is a campaign that launched recently. You'll also hear about our EHE monitoring and evaluation process. This has been a process that's been in the works for quite a while, and we're excited to present to you and provide an update from the one that we provided in April. And then from there, we're also going to hear from the Florida Harm Reduction Collective, and then a World AIDS Day report, and many other things like from what you can see on the screen. Next slide, please. Okay, so I really want to make sure that everyone who is new to EHE understands our mission and our vision. So our vision is to end the HIV epidemic in Pinellas County by providing equitable and accessible HIV services and resources for all. And that vision is sort of what we can expect to see in the future in terms of what we hope to see in the community. However, the work that we're doing in order to achieve that vision is our mission statement, which is to build capacity within Pinellas County to provide equitable HIV services through collaborative community networking that promotes and sustains accessible resources and services for all. Next slide, please. All right, so we're going to now do a few introductions. So what we ask is that if there's anyone in the room here today who is new to EHE, as in this is your very first EHE meeting, please raise your hand and please introduce yourself if you feel comfortable, challenge by choice, as this is being streamed on Facebook. So is there anyone new? Okay. Excellent. If you all wouldn't mind coming to the front to introduce yourselves, we'd greatly appreciate it. All righty. I'll just pass the mic.
Good morning, Benjamin Rodriguez. I'm from AHF. I'm the non-medical case manager.
Thank you.
Good morning, Melissa Whitaker, Can Community Health, Regional Director for Florida's Gulf Coast Prevention and Education.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kelly Roy. I'm with Epic and Path Health, and I'm the community liaison.
Good morning, everyone. I'm with Banyan Tree. My name is Tyrell Jordan.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mac. I'm with Gilead as a community liaison as well. So I'm excited to be in the community.
Fantastic. We're excited to have you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Whitney Griffin. I'm with Clear Health Alliance, and I'm a housing outreach specialist.
Thank you. So many first timers. We really appreciate you all being here.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Jeffrey Johnson, Director of Support Services for United Way Suncoast. We cover Pinellas, Hillsborough, Sarasota, Manatee, and DeSoto counties.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lubin Jean-Paul, and I'm with USF PEDS ID, and I am the project coordinator for All for Youth Pinellas in the EHE program.
All right. Thank you very much for those introductions. And again, I can't thank you enough for being here. We'd also like to acknowledge those who are logging on virtually to this meeting. So if you are new to Pinellas EHE or new to the EHE Council, we would appreciate if you just come off mute and just introduce yourselves, your name, position, and the organization that you're with.
I guess I'll start. Good morning, everyone. My name is Natasha Cruz-Knopf, and I'm one of the full-time sexual assault victim advocates at the Suncoast Center, and we serve Pinellas County.
Hi, my name is Alexa Muchler. I am the HIV self-testing program manager for Florida Harm Reduction Collective, so you'll hear from me more later.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Bonham-Levitt, and I am working with IDEA Pinellas, which is part of PERC. IDEA Pinellas is going to be the county's first syringe service program. Thank you all.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Malik Waters. I am the EHE project lead at Metro Inclusive Health within the Prevention and Sexual Health Department. So we work between Pinellas, Hillsborough. We also have a location in Newport Richey and Clearwater.
Hi, everyone. My name is Angela Reese, and I'm one of the nurses that works at Evra Health, and I am the family planning program manager and am involved with our prevention program as well. Thanks for inviting us.
Hello and good morning, everyone. My name is Prashard Williams. I am the HIV Prevention Program Manager for Can Community Health, covering Clearwater, St. Pete, Tampa, and Newport Richey.
First time out there in virtual world? Anyone's first time here that would like to introduce themselves? All righty, thank you all so much. And we will now move on to the next part of our agenda. Which is a Ryan White Part 8 update provided by Aubrey Arnold. Aubrey, are you there?
Yes, good morning, Chris. Can you hear me? Chris, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I am here. I wish I was there in person. I think that it would be a little bit more effective. So if I lose the audio or whatever, my apologies. Can I share a screen? Chris?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I was just going to say, can I share a screen?
Yes, we're working on that right now. We'll let you know when
Oh,
you're able
okay.
to share.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
If it's not working, that's fine.
Aubrey, you can try now.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Does can you see it? It should say Tampa St. Pete work plan. Okay. Again, I will try to speak very clearly, and I'm trying to stay close to the mic here on my computer. I wanted to share with you all that we are going into year 3 of our EHE, our Ending the HIV Epidemic grant through HRSA, the Health Resources and Services Administration, which works very closely with your project in Pinellas, and also the project that we have in Hillsborough County, sponsored by the Hillsborough County Health Department, our colleagues in Hillsborough. We are going into year 3 of our project, which integrates with both Hillsborough and Pinellas County. And I wanted to just kind of give everyone a sense of our numbers and our budget in terms of the services that we're providing. As you can see here, our overall budget this year, our overall grant award was for $2,400,000. It represented about a 20% increase for FY22, which started in March of this year. We were very late in getting our full award, which didn't arrive until June, which was after our last meeting that we had with the EHE Council. This year, we are funding, in addition to early intervention services and health education risk reduction, we are funding supportive housing, mental health, and some substance misuse funding in both Hillsborough and Pinellas County. Again, as you can see where the additional funds are going, we are adding some funding to health education risk reduction. And also the majority of it is going to housing assistance, the additional funding that we received this year. Also, I will let the group know that we are expecting another $370,000 to come in that represents carryover from last year, which we will also be putting back into community services. So we're very excited about how the programs are going. We have some really innovative work going on, especially under early intervention services. And all of this coordinates very well with the mission and the objectives that Chris had mentioned earlier for the EHE in Pinellas County. I will take a minute. If anyone has any questions about our budget or our work this year in Pinellas County, I'm happy to answer them. And I hope everyone heard my comments.
For those of you who, well, I guess that would be more so for the people in the room, we will be sending, as Darius said, we'll be sending those slides out along with the slides that you are seeing that we're presenting from EHE. All right, thank you, Aubrey.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I appreciate the time.
Yes, we appreciate you as well. Next slide, please. All right, and we will hear from our very own Nicole Houston regarding some EHE news and updates.
Feel so welcome. Thank you all. Thank you all for sticking with us despite our, technical difficulties. We're really happy to see all your lovely faces today. Again, my name is Nicole Houston. I'm one of your EHE strategic planners and consultants for the Florida Department of Health here in Pinellas County. So I'll be doing a brief recap of some of the great work that we have been doing here in Pinellas County related to EHE. So I will be talking about a form that we're using to actually collect some of that great participant information. Then I'll also be going over some of that information that was collected from previous events within this last quarter since we last spoke at our previous EHE council meeting, as well as those events being Wild Splash, Pride events, as well as National HIV Testing Day. Next slide, please. Okay, so as you can see here on the slide, this is our Pinellas EHE Community Event Participation Survey. So it is a brief 10 questions. This is not mandatory to our partners, but we do highly recommend it. And I'm going to show you guys in just a second why we recommend it so much. There are 3 ways to actually complete this survey. We have it here in paper form. Well, this is what it looks like in paper form. There is a website that you can go to go on it, as well as a QR code that you can just scan with your phone. And then it does provide specific demographics of who we're able to reach at all of our outreaches. So all the wonderful things that you all do, we do recommend it, but it's not mandatory. Next slide, please. All right, so recently within the last quarter that we were together and came together in the EHE meeting, we did a couple of outreaches that you can see here through our wonderful pictures, as well as this is some of the data that was collected and analyzed from that participant research. So this Wild Splash is a series of concerts, if you guys aren't familiar with it, and we hosted it with Beasley Media, as well as our partners that are sponsoring the meeting today, Banyan Tree. We distributed over 150 incentive bags, and over 71 surveys were collected. Some really important things that we got from that is we were able to reach our target or our priority age group, which is really good. So we want to make sure that we're reaching the folks that we need to be reaching with these outreaches. So 73% of our survey participants were actually from the age range that we wanted to reach, which is 20 to 39 years old. Some other significant things were that not only did we reach folks here in Pinellas County, but we did also reach individuals who were in Hillsborough County, which is also one of the priority counties for EHE here in Florida. Yeah, so we can also see some other things that we need to improve in, but again, this is a really good outreach, and we also go over the average rating. So our ratings are always above average. It's out of a 5-point star rating. This event was 4.7 for our HIV and AIDS education, as well as a 4.8 overall. So we're doing really good in the eyes of the community. And you can see some of our images here. This is the EHE team. We also have some teen and volunteers that help us with these events. So a lot more participation from the community. Next slide, please. So we also did a lot of wonderful events during Pride, which we're really excited about. Again, you see some pictures over there where you see Miss T.S. Madison, who will put on a full show. It was amazing to see her host. You can also see the EHE team down there at the bottom where we were distributing information. We also included our STI outreach team at this event. You guys did an amazing job. We also actually got more HIV test taken at that event because we were collaborating with the STI team. So that is making a really big difference in having on-site testing so that people don't have to project what their anticipated actions will be, which is this action down here. So actions taken, we actually got 21.9% of our participants to actually take a test and know their status. It is a rapid test, so that's a really great thing. Also with this event, one thing to really highlight was that the race and ethnicity. I know that Shades of Pride was definitely an event that we are trying to get more people of color to participate in Pride events. And as you can see, 78% of the participants were Black and Latino. So that's definitely a success as to who we were able to reach with this initiative. Next slide, please. We did not do a survey here at the parade. However, you can see the team here. You see my coworker Chris down there, always looking fly with the sneakers as usual. And the rest of the team, you can see us in the Florida Department of Health vans. We were passing out goodies, spreading awareness of the EHE events that we participate in. So it was a really great day. Next slide, please. We also participated in the street festival, which is the day after the parade. Some of the important things to point out, again, you can see how we set up on the street there, and we distributed bags to over 150 people. And this was actually one of our highest responding events, where we collected over 102 surveys. We can also see some of the other demographics. It was a lot more distributed with age. And surprisingly, we reached 30% of 60 plus. So that was actually interesting, because we do know that that is a place where STI are actually growing in an older population, you know, so don't sleep on the older people. And then we can also see that this event here, when we talk about preference, preference is actually formerly known as sexual orientation. So we were able to reach more of what would have originally been classified as sexual minorities. So we did have 42.2% of same gender loving individuals, 47.5% that identified as bisexual, 4.9% of pansexual individuals, and 4.9% that identified as other. So you can kind of see how these surveys are really important as to who we are reaching related to our priority populations for EHE. Next slide, please. Okay, and the last event that we're going to go over is the National HIV Testing Day, which was conducted with our partners, PPP, whoop, whoop, whoop. Pinellas Planning Partnership. Yes, please give yourselves applause, because that's most of us in the room. And we went to Walgreens on Central Avenue, and you can see here our partners Metro, who provided testing that day. And then also you can see the Pinellas EHE set up below. We were able to reach individuals that were of an older age range. We also were able to reach, as you can see in the zip area, 70% were actually of the Pinellas priority zip code. So that was really interesting, and it gives us some insight as to where we need to be hosting these events so that we can reach individuals within our priority zip codes. And those are 33701, 33705, 11, 12, and 13. And you can see some of the images here from our outreach. At the bottom, again, all of our events were rated highly effective. So highly effective, oh no. Highly effective in HIV education, as well as highly effective in overall rating. So that is my recap for our EHE events, and it's a wonder that our technology passed away or took a brief intermission while I was finishing. But yes, as you guys can see, we're doing a great job here. I want you guys to give yourselves a round of applause, because these are actually, you know, data points that we're collecting from the work that we're doing here in EHE. Okay, all right. Well, thank you all for the attentiveness while I gave you some of these stats that we are collecting from our participant research. And we'll again encourage you all to do those surveys. It's not mandatory, but you can kind of see the benefit from them. Okay, without further ado, I'll hand it back over to my colleague.
Thank you, Nicole. Wonderful update. Excellent. So next we have a STI programmatic update that will be provided by Mr. George Hughes. All righty, just a brief pause. Mary's just gonna-
So you know how when you go to church, for those of you all who are watching or virtual, you know how when you come to, if you go to church and you have the program and it's printed out, but you know you have things that somebody didn't show up, somebody's late. So you got to adjust the program. You know, sister so told you she was going, Alice told you she was going to be there to do the welcome. And it's time for the welcome and she ain't nowhere in sight. So you got to readjust. So sometimes you got to readjust. And so that's what we're going to do. So I do want to acknowledge my team that I work with, because you're only as good as the people that you work with. You can be a great manager, you can be a great employee, but it's the people that work with you that help make you great. The reason why the Pinellas EHE effort has been so special is because there are special people that help make it that. So I want to acknowledge my team members that help make this special. So I believe in giving honor where honor is due and acknowledging the people that I labor with. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge my leader who is in the room, because you don't acknowledge nobody else until you acknowledge the house first. So I want to acknowledge my leader who is in the room, my division director, Ms. Charlene Edwards. Y'all give her a round of applause. Yes, I know how to pivot. All right, and I do want to acknowledge all of you all in your respective places. Also on my team, we have Miss Nicole Houston, who's over here working things out. Also, Mr. Chris Walker, who is doing an excellent job facilitating for us today. She is in the office. Hopefully she can hear me. I do want to acknowledge my HIV/AIDS grants manager and ADAP supervisor, Ms. Yashika Everhart.
I can hear you, thank you.
So one of my team members, and they had no idea I was going to do this. One of my team members is, just going to tell you who I'm talking about. This gentleman right here, Mr. Chris Walker, is going to get his doctoral degree in sociology. Not so, what's your program? It's sociology, right? That's what I said, right? Okay. That ain't what I said, okay. All right. So he's going to UCF. He will be soon be Dr. Walker. And I felt it was fitting, and the team felt it was fitting that we acknowledge that he will still be working with us, but he will be going to more of kind of a part-time status with us. He's done great work with us. Both of them have, both Chris and Nicole, and I also want to acknowledge Dion, Miss Dion Nixon. Also, they've done a great job, and we did not want to lose Chris. We're glad that he's still going to be able to work with us, but we did want to just acknowledge all your hard work, all your efforts, all the creativity, everything that you have brought to this initiative. And so this is to you from us, all of this. So we know you're gonna be on the campus, and we want to make sure you looking fly when you up on the campus at UCF. Yes, and it's water resistant and everything. So I'll give you the specs later. Yes, so let's give it up one more time for Chris. All right, now if I was at church, I would say it's time for the offering, but are we back up yet? Are we back up? We still live? So they can hear me. Okay, good. All right, so while we working that out, are we ready to proceed, or we need a? Okay, so at this time, we're going to have an STI programmatic update. Let me just give you a little backdrop real quick. When we started talking about HIV and ending the HIV epidemic, I am a firm believer there is no way that you can end HIV without having a conversation about STIs. STIs are the gateway to HIV oftentimes, and we can't cure HIV if we can't keep the same folks that keep trickling in and out of our STD clinics. If we can't get them right, we're not gonna be able to end HIV. So that's why it's important that we're talking about STIs and how we reduce incidences of STIs in our community. And so STIs and HIV, we're in the same family, so we have to be together, and that's why we're talking about that. So at this time, he's virtual, but I'm going to introduce him, Mr. George Hughes, who's one of our STI supervisors in the STD program. So George, can you hear me? Do I have to put the mic over there? Okay.
Hey, George, are you there? Okay, we'll circle back around to that STI programmatic update because we really want to be able to provide that information to the community. Very, very important. In the meantime, what we're going to do is transition to our STI trends in monkeypox. Oh, he's on? Okay. Hold on one second.
Okay. What about now? Can you hear me, Sherry? Sherry, can you hear me? Okay, so we're good to go? All right, thank you. Good morning, and I hope everyone can hear me. My name is George Hughes, and I'm a supervisor in the STD program, and I'm gonna give the STD update this morning. First, I'd like to bring to your attention an article that was in the Tampa Tribune yesterday. And Chris, I faxed that or I emailed that article to you. I hope you were able to share with the members of the EHE. And this article in the Tampa Tribune was titled, "Lawyers Behind Abortion Ban Targets Preventive HIV Drugs." And when I read this, it just blew me away. I felt that this article simply was an attack on a certain segment of our population. Who would ever thought that giving HIV preventive drugs to patients to protect them from HIV would offend
Can you please unmute yourself, Mr. George?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Can.
Okay, did you get all of that or was I? Okay, do I need to start over or?
Could you start over?
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not sure why it muted again. Again, I'd like to bring to the attention an article that I read in the Tampa Tribune yesterday. And the article was titled, "Lawyers Beyond Abortion Ban Targets Preventive HIV Drug." And basically, these are our drugs, Descovy and Truvada. And I felt that this article simply was an attack on a certain segment of our population. And it really upset me. Who would have ever thought that giving HIV preventive drugs to patients to prevent them from catching or getting HIV would be offensive to a certain segment of our population? And just briefly, this lawyer from Texas is suing, arguing that mandatory PrEP coverage violates the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. God. And where am I? I'm sorry for the interruption. The phone was ringing. And the article states that his Christian clients don't wish to subsidize or provide insurance that encourages or facilitates homosexual behavior, drug use, or sexual activities outside of marriage. And if he's successful with this lawsuit, it's going to make it difficult for our clients to get these drugs. And I hope you all read that, because I asked Chris to give that to you. And I hope it makes you upset just like it upset me. Secondly, I'd like to talk about our I'd like to talk about our morbidity in Pinellas County. Over the past 6 months, our chlamydia and gonorrhea cases have decreased, which is excellent. In our business, we'll take a win where we could get it. However, our syphilis cases continue to increase across the board. Our infectious cases, which are symptomatic cases, the sores, lesions, we've seen more of that. And our early latent cases have also increased. Our congenital cases, however, have remained the same year to date as last year. I'd also like to talk about our outreach screening team. A few months ago, we talked about putting together a screening team where this team would actually go out into the community and do screenings and do what we call active surveillance. There's two types of surveillance. There's active surveillance, there's passive surveillance. Passive surveillance is, the reports that we get from the doctors, the hospitals, the laboratories. But active surveillance is where we actually go out and we target high morbidity areas, and we go out and do active surveillance. We do screening. And let me tell you, this screening team is just awesome. They've gone out, they've done a number of outreach screenings. They've tested almost 90 people. They've found several syphilis cases and an HIV case. And this is exactly what we want to do. This is certainly a success story. And not only are they doing testing, but they're also educating the clients and handing out educational material and that sort of thing. They are certainly worthwhile and they're awesome. And lastly, what I'd like to do, I'd like to just give you an update on our STD program and some of the changes that's happening at this point. It seems like we're losing staff to retirement, that we're losing staff to retirement, to promotion. So if any of you all have someone in mind that they need a job, that they want to join our family at the Pinellas County Health Department, please encourage them to apply for some of these positions that we're going to have open. Please, please. Thank you. And that concludes my my update.
Thank you, George. Feel free to give him a round of applause, or yes, please give George a round of applause. George, thank you for sending that over. I think I got it in the afternoon. I've been busy preparing for this meeting, so I do apologize if it wasn't sent out, but we'll be sure to send that out. All
right. And Chris, I tell you, I hope that it upsets you like it upset me. I mean, it was like taking a walk back in the 60s when I read that. It really bothered me.
Yes, and I'm sure it'll enlighten and perhaps anger others as soon as we send that out. But thank you for making us aware. We're going to move on now to an STI trends and monkeypox report provided by Stephen Marlin. Round of applause for Stephen, please. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. My name is Stephen Marlin. I work in disease control here at the Florida Department of Health in Pinellas County. This wasn't part of my speech, but George, that was very poignant, and we usually keep it pretty informal anyway. I just wanted to point out, I was actually talking about this problem, reaching the right people for HIV prevention last night with my best friend, and she was pointing out that it is a systemic problem. So I think yeah, your point is very well taken. We are fighting against organizations and people that knowingly or not are making this problem worse, right? And the reason why we can't reach a lot of the people that we're trying to reach is because systemic problems get in the way, and that's really horrifying to hear that. So, oh yeah, I'll just look to the, yeah, no problem. So anyway, sorry, that was just something I had to say out loud. Hi, everybody. I work in disease control. I'm a surveillance epidemiologist. I do HIV and STD data recording. If, by the way, we have any sort of, if I go too quickly, you can always email me or call me. I think I speak for almost everybody here, or maybe everybody here when I say that you can always reach out to me directly if you have any comments or questions. Sometimes I speak very quickly. Sometimes I gloss over things. And I didn't expect to see so many new faces. So I had kind of in my head that I'd be running over a lot of the stuff that I've gone over before. So anyway, it's like I said, so if you have any questions, you can actually stop me if you'd like, or you can ask me at the end of the presentation. If not, you can contact me directly. So let's get started here. We can go to the next slide. Oh wait, one more thing. Can we, everybody got applause except for Dion. Can we get a round of applause for Dion Nixon? She deserves it. Okay, so I'm going to give us a brief overview of STD and HIV rates in the county. Most of you that have been here before are familiar with the format of this. I updated my presentation with new data and I added some stuff on the end, but I generally keep in the same format just so we can stay consistent on how it's being reported. So I'm going to give a brief overview. You've seen, a lot of you have seen that before. I want to go over the HIV comorbidities for a lot of our STD disease codes so that you understand the context. Much like Darius was saying, these are like overlapping Venn diagrams as far as the populations that we're trying to reach and help. So it's important to point out the comorbidities, I feel. I'm going to give you a heat map of reported cases. That's exactly what it sounds like. If somebody doesn't know what that is, you'll know exactly when you see it. Then I'm going to go over our trends and our priority populations for those 3 disease codes: chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis, which are the ones that we consider mostly in our reporting. Then I've actually added on a new part to this report, the new hotness, which is the syphilis maps, because like George was saying, syphilis is a particularly large problem right now, and it's actually been very bad over the last few years. And I just want to point out in a graphical sense so everyone can really get the scope of what I'm talking about. And then we thought it was appropriate for me to cover monkeypox, since that's like the big topic issue right now, and meningococcal disease I added as well. I thought that was important. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so here's the table I'm talking about. This is the same table that many of you have seen before, but for those of you who have not seen it, what this does is it shows the rate. Can you all see me point if I don't know if they can see online if I point, but they can, okay. So in this top left box right here, this is the syphilis rate per 1,000 population in Pinellas County for the general population. And here's the rate for someone who's been diagnosed with an HIV, or has received an HIV diagnosis. Someone who's living with HIV, the rate is 30.2, whereas it's 0.47. So mathematically, you can see that that's about a 60 times greater risk for a person living with an HIV diagnosis, as opposed to a randomly chosen individual in Pinellas County. So that difference is, I feel like, staggering right here. So this is the point that Darius, George, and I are kind of trying to drive home here, is the overlap of our priority groups. And I'm not going to spend too much more time on this table, but I just wanted to make that point clear. That's why I show this table every time I give this presentation. We can go to the next one. Oh, and also I ramble, as you're sure you can tell. So Charlene, if I'm going long, you can give me the, appreciate it. Okay. So top left graph is the same graph that many of you have seen before, because this graph is informed by Florida charts. And what this does is it shows overall STD incidence of those 3 disease codes that we just mentioned: chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis, for both Pinellas County and Florida. This is one that I've population adjusted. So if you'll notice here in the gray, the rate here is staying about what you would expect. It does increase year to year, as Sherry, our manager, will let you know. It does increase year to year, but relative to our population increase, it's staying about average, where that is not the case for the state as a whole. So it's a way of saying that maybe Pinellas is doing a little bit better than some of the other counties as far as STD incidents. Still not where we want, right? We want this to go down, but if I adjust for the population increase, it stays about the same year to year. No, this graph here, the bar graph, has actually been updated. I thought it was premature last time we presented here for me to show the year-to-date counts, but I've updated this so that it's now a year-to-date, so we can do comparisons between the previous years. These are overall STD counts for each year, and as you can see, as George was pointing out, we are like slightly lower than last year, because last year was a crazy year for STD, but it's still very, very high, much higher than we'd like it to be. And problematically, it is syphilis. This bottom table, which I'm so glad Chris was able to get in here because I gave him a last minute update. You're great, Chris. Thank you so much. Is the actual counts by age group per each disease code. And so I've colored it so that it's easy to tell where the highest incidence is. It's where almost all of you, I'm sure all of you, would expect in the younger age groups. Here is the dark red. And then I manually colored in this bottom one because obviously those are congenital syphilis cases. So for 2022, we have had 3 congenital syphilis cases, and I feel like that's high priority, even if the number is not technically high. And again, I know I'm going quickly, so you can ask me questions at the end. We can go to the next one. Okay, so here's that heat map I was talking about. And so now, since we have so many new people, I wish that I'd created or showed you the last one. But basically, this area right here, the Tarpon Springs, Palm, I feel like a meteorologist, in the Tarpon Springs, Palm Harbor area was much darker considering the previous 5 years. So that would be 2016 to 2021. I've updated this to be in the last 5 years, 2017 to 2022. And it has actually moved down and pressurized even more in those problematic zip codes here. Yeah, thank you, Charlene, like that. Low pressure system going. But we've also added 2 priority zip codes as well as last time we presented this data. So all the data that comes for 2022 comes from our surveillance system STARS instead of Florida charts. Florida charts is like the dogma, but it takes longer to update. So you won't see something like this on Florida charts. I do think it's a great resource for anyone who wants data on STD or HIV or a lot of reportable diseases, but this is a little bit more up to the date information than you'd be able to access there. And we can always go back to the slide if anybody wants to see that. I'm sure this is provided as well. We can go to the next one. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the priority groups. So for chlamydia, which is generally the highest incidence disease code that we have for STD, in other words, just the raw number of reports we get is highest in chlamydia. What we've seen is kind of a leveling off, much like I was talking about before. And because it takes so much, because it makes up so much of our annual incidence, this is why you don't see the STD trends really increasing for Pinellas. You do see that increasing, of course, in Florida. And again, this is population adjusted. So this is a similar display as what you saw in the beginning because chlamydia makes up so much of our total incidence. Here, I've separated this by gender. So it has a lot to do with what our priority group is. And chlamydia historically is generally reported more among females. So I thought that would be an interesting visualization. What we're finding though, is that that gap is actually shrinking between the two genders. And you're starting to see more male cases in proportion to female. But our priority group, meaning the highest incidence rates, are generally between non-Hispanic females between 15 and 29. And you'll see that in the next slide, that our priority group for gonorrhea is non-Hispanic Black males of any age. Gonorrhea, for those of you that haven't heard me do this presentation before, I'll just quickly say, is particularly problematic because it is rapidly becoming resistant to the medications that we use to treat it. There's actually recently become somewhat of a superbug in that gonorrhea is generally not treated by anything other than a particular class of medications. I won't say what that is, Charlene can say, just in case I got it wrong. But as you can see here, this gonorrhea rate, now this is again, population adjusted, is increasing in Pinellas as well as of last year. George was referencing 2022, so he's more accurate than this because this comes from Florida charts, but as of last year, it was still increasing, which is very worrisome. This graph on the right, though, has been updated with stars so that it does include 2022. As you can see, slightly lower, just like George said here, but still much higher than we would like to see and much higher over the last few years. And our priority group for that, as I said, is Black males. So I've shown this as a rate adjusted, population adjusted rate for Black males in red here versus, or yeah, Black residents in red here, and then white residents in the pink, which is just mind-blowing to look at, right? The difference. So I thought that was important to point out. Okay, so now let's get into syphilis, which is the next slide. Thank you. Our priority populations in syphilis tend to be, and almost always are, pregnant women and those reporting male-to-male sexual contact. Pregnant women because of the risk of congenital syphilis and complications that happen because of that diagnosis and infection. And male-to-male sexual contact generally, largely because they are higher risk of exposure, as we pointed out earlier, to an HIV co-infection or other things that might lead them to be immunocompromised. So they can become very, very complicated and dangerous. And this right here, the stair step again, is terrifying for us when we see this. So syphilis has gotten worse, and believe it or not, it's actually even into 2022 getting even worse right here. So I can't explain this. I wish that I could, but I triple checked that. That is what we reported for our April reports, and these lines here represent previous years. Sorry if I keep coming in and out. These lines here represent previous years relative to our current year 2022 here, and this is as far as we've gotten into June. But as you'll note, if we were to aggregate these numbers, we've just gotten higher year by year. That's what this graph is showing, which is really horrible. And we can go to the next slide, but I'm going to keep talking about how syphilis rates, when I talk about those like overlapping Venn diagrams like before, syphilis is a priority designation for a lot of the people we're trying to help in EHE as well. So just keep in mind that syphilis is very, very important for us to monitor as far as it is for one of our demographic groups. And so this is similar to one of our previous visualizations here. I did syphilis cases for between 2016 to 2020. I aggregated them, and then I created a adjusted rate per zip code so that it would adjust. So if one zip code has a much higher population, I don't want to show that, oh, just because it has more population, it has more syphilis cases. So this is population adjusted. So this is irrespective of population per zip code. Basically, you can see where this is concentrated, very similar to the heat map that we saw in the beginning. And then when I updated it now with 2021 data, we actually get a completely different category of disease. Like it's so much higher that a new category had to be added to the map. And you'll see here I changed the color to red, breaking the color scheme a little bit, but I thought that was pretty important to point out for everybody in the room. It's bad stuff. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. And so we did want to bring up monkeypox because it seems like in public health we've had to point out and make sure we emphasize that monkeypox is not classically a sexually transmitted disease. It is something that you contract through close, intimate contact with another person. And so you can't classify monkeypox as a sexually transmitted disease any more than you would like flu or chickenpox, right? If you were to be close and intimate with somebody, you had chickenpox, it's likely to give that to them, but that would not be then classified as a sexually transmitted disease. So similarly, we just want to point out that monkeypox is not specific to one population. Anyone can get it. Most of the monkeypox cases so far in the US, I believe it's over 90%, have been classified MSM, but that is not limited to this population. And a lot of our community partners, as I referenced in the bottom here, are here. So you're aware that we're partnering with our community to better serve our at-risk populations. And if you do know someone or yourself experience any of these symptoms, you should get checked out for monkeypox. We can go to the next one. And again, you guys can stop me if I say something I don't understand. So meningococcal disease. Just quickly, is everyone here aware of the meningococcal disease outbreak right now? Fantastic, okay, great. So as Dr. Cho, our leader, was pointing out, meningococcal disease right now is an outbreak in Florida, and it is in many ways scarier than monkeypox, even though monkeypox is getting a lot of the media attention. In that, in the monkeypox, well, as of this writing, among the meningococcal disease cases, 25% of them have had fatal outcomes, whereas we've had, and again, as of this writing, no fatal outcomes for monkeypox. So it is very, very important that we address meningococcal disease because, as many of the, or almost all of the disease codes I've mentioned previously, there is an overlap in demographic when we think about the groups that are most exposed at the moment. Meningococcal disease is not specific to any one demographic, but right now we are seeing it more prevalently among those who are reporting MSM. And one thing about meningococcal disease is that there is plenty available vaccine for this one. So you should just, if you're an at-risk person, you should just go get the meningococcal disease vaccine, which is readily available at the health department, at your provider. And it is actually recommended in the routine series. A lot of people can get it when they're in their teens, but some people don't get it, and then therefore they would be at risk. So if you're an at-risk person, please, 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 we're encouraging you to go get the meningococcal disease vaccine. And if you know people, which all of you do, that might be at risk, we should encourage them to get the meningococcal disease vaccine. So I think I covered everything on this slide. We can go to the next one. So this is a lot of you. And then on the final slide, and these are our health department phone numbers. And then on the final slide are my contact information. If you want to contact me again, please do. We can go to the last one because, yeah, you guys are getting these slides. You can go ahead and contact me anytime. Please send me an email if you have any questions. I feel like I ran through that very, very quickly because I was given 10 minutes. But I am happy to talk about this anytime. So thank you. Yes, I was told at the beginning that we will be sending out the slides. Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if everyone could hear it. Yeah, so the question was, do I have, because I was reporting on incidents, that's a really good question. Do I have data regarding prevalence of these STD codes in the county? And I kind of don't, because when you think about it, if I get a notification, it's the reportable diseases, if I get a notification that a person's been diagnosed with gonorrhea, that person is likely being recommended treatment, right? And they're probably looking for treatment as well because they went to the health department or their provider to get that testing. So the answer to your question is we kind of don't have a great way to gauge that. There's a lot of people who might have a latent infection, like in syphilis cases, for a very long time, especially if they're asymptomatic. And they would just, that would be prevalence, right? But I can't access that data unless we get better and more routine screenings, which is something that we talk about very regularly in our STD meetings. Did I answer your question? Okay. Please email me. Okay. I think that maybe there's methods to do that that we could look into. But with reportable disease, you know, if they report it, then yes, it's included in prevalence. If they don't report it, it's not. So I can't, yeah, unless I just start giving random samples, right? Maybe. Right? But maybe we should do that. Anybody? So STARS is one of our surveillance systems that's in the Department of Health. So, oh, I'm sorry. So the question was, and I'm so sorry, I don't remember everyone's names, so I would have just your name. The question was, how would one access STARS? Because I referenced earlier that we have more up-to-date data with STARS. Well, STARS is for reporting, and it is locally controlled by the health department. So it is not publicly available data. So this is, I'm giving it to you the straight honest truth, but unfortunately, the best source for data in the public is generally Florida charts, which is really great. Health charts is actually, we kind of take it as like the static, it gets frozen once a year, and it's a great source, but it's just a little bit behind in lag. Oh, good point, yes. Yes, that's exactly right. So I have case line data with names and things like that. And obviously we wouldn't want to give that to the public. Yes. The youth. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Right. Mm-hmm. Fantastic question. So the question was, what are we doing at the health department to increase our outreach to the right groups regarding how serious this is? And I'm not exactly the best person to do that. I kind of say, hey, the sky is falling, and I run into Sherry's office or I run into Charlene's office, and they tell me to calm down a little bit. But I believe Sherry's going to speak in a moment. Maybe she can speak to that a little bit. Charlene can speak to that a little bit. But yes, Sherry has upped our outreaches. We've started doing a lot of outreaches. We've been out there. They're reporting on that data. And then we have our, Darius, who has something to say? Yeah, you can.
Hey, in response to the question, I think one of the best ways we can do this is one, with you all as partners being here in the room with us. Obviously, this is information, particularly with our EHE partners and just about everybody in this room is, whether you are or not, this is information that we can work with you to get to you so that you can use it in your various outreach and your patient care and prevention program efforts. So the website, and of course we have our own website plug, PinellasEHE.org. Yes, so plug. We share videos, these presentations, we can upload them, the slides, all kinds of stuff. So there's lots of stuff on the PinellasEHE.org website. Melissa.
So, okay, so that actually is a great segue into what I was going to say next. So the statement was maybe an overview of Florida charts, and I think you mean like using it, right? Understanding using it. Mm-hmm. You know what's embarrassing? I just learned recently that you can set a preference to county. I've been going in and changing it to Pinellas manually. You can say, okay. So yeah, I could use that too. I think that's a great idea. And I want to make that as a segue also into what I was going to say next, which is I get suggestions or questions or comments on these reports all the time that are helpful. And sometimes I go, wow, how was I not looking about that? How did I not think about that? So you all are exactly the people to tell me, like, are we looking at this, or to give me great questions that would help me with my surveillance and our reporting. So please, like I said, contact us, email me, email the health department. And if EHE thinks it's a good idea for me to go over Florida charts, or for one of us to do that, we can absolutely do that. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Stephen. That was a great presentation. So for those of you who are with us in person, feel free to grab food on the back tables. We're going to proceed with the meeting, but at your leisure, feel free to go grab some food or grab a drink, whatever you'd like. There's plenty back there. Oh, there are different sandwiches per box, so I look at the label to make sure you're picking up the correct one. I'm gonna test this. Oh. Just 1 second, please. All right, so we're going to keep it moving. We're going to hear from Dr. Janelle Tavares, who is going to be talking about our EHE evaluation update, the progress that we've made, and what we can look forward to with that. Dr. Janelle, are you there?
Yes, I am here. Can you hear me?
Adjusting the sound just now, 1 second. Can you speak again, please?
Testing, testing. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, so I will go ahead and begin. I'm so thankful that food was mentioned at the meeting, because I was going to start this presentation with a food analogy, because I will be presenting to you the work that we have done in Pinellas around creating an evaluation plan, which is basically like the icing on the cake. So I will not be presenting on the recipe or the full set of ingredients that it took to get here. So this is like higher level, superficial. You're seeing the product of what was being accomplished, but there's so much more layers and ingredients to this that you will probably see moving forward. You will probably use moving forward. So this is just a quick taste of what was accomplished. And if we can move on to the next slide. And we can move on to the next slide. I really don't want the focus to be on me. I think the point is I've also worked in the HIV field, you know, in various roles, and have been part of the groundwork. And so being able to go through Pinellas's plans, activities, narratives, everything that's been done was a huge privilege, and being able to organize it in a way that Pinellas can have success in reporting its progress was just a great experience. And kudos to Pinellas. And I'm also so thankful for the EHE team. And for Leisha, who stuck with me for these months and bared with me and provided information and answered my questions and really helped get everything that I needed, you know, to produce this along with me. So it wasn't just me by myself, and I appreciate that very much. Next slide. And just recapping on the purpose of why we engaged in creating, monitoring, and evaluation action plan. It was to provide technical assistance and expertise on the development of a comprehensive M&E plan that aligns with national, state, and local plans and requirements. The M&E plan will encompass tools, but not limited to things such as logic models, quality assurance assessments, action plans, various charts and templates that will support the jurisdictional EHE activities and goals. Next slide. So that is exactly what happened. We created a total of 8 tools, and I think it's on one of the following slides, so I won't go through them right just yet, but to add to what was already being done in Pinellas. So I bring back we're at that presentation. We can bring this back to memory, and then you can see the progress of that. So part of what was expected was to review all proposed and planned activities, review everything M&E, requirements, timelines, templates, things that have been done already in Pinellas for years 1 and 2 of EHE, look at all the evaluation tools, variables, materials, budget, and resources, and then do an analysis on all of these things. So in total, we reviewed 24 documents or groups of documents. So a lot of material. And I think that that just speaks to the work that Pinellas is doing. So coming in from the outside, some overall feedback was that there was a lot of activity going on in Pinellas. And not just a lot of activity, but a lot of stakeholder engagement and a lot of novelties, new things that I haven't seen before around, engaging workforce and new types of interventions and strategies. And so, I came in with this framework of, okay, well, how can we organize all of this information where it's actually present to demonstrate what Pinellas is actually doing and highlight its strengths and progress toward EHE. So again, kudos to Pinellas, because there was a lot to work with. Sometimes when I engage in these activities, I have to create things to sort of fill in the gaps, and I did not have to do that here. It was just, having to be organized in the best way possible for documentation of success. Next slide. So an M&E action plan was created, and there were 5 recommended priority steps that were addressed in this time frame, and an additional 7 recommended continued action steps for future monitoring and evaluation. Next slide. So there were a total of 8 new M&E tools that were created to sort of bring everything together and have a comprehensive M&E plan. And they included EHE evaluation indicators, so higher level set of indicators that you would measure annually that would give you a good sense of where EHE is going, where it's been, and where in what direction are you guys headed towards, right? And logic models were revised for pillars 1 through 4. So a list of stakeholder engagement tools was put together, and there were 35 total tools that are used for EHE, whether it be for monitoring evaluation or as data sources, or to engage stakeholders or communicate with stakeholders. So I thought that that was really abundant, and also again to the work of what's being done, especially the EHE team, because a lot of these were created by them and they're used day to day, so they didn't even see how much work is actually being done towards EHE progress till we brought this together, and then you're able to see that. And then the EHE work plan was revised where all activities can be displayed throughout the entirety of the EHE implementation timeframe. And lastly, EHE Progress Compendium was created where progress will be documented and also will be a data source to be able to, I guess, interpret the information that's being collected, and decisions can be made based on that. Next slide. So this is just an example. I don't expect anybody to read it, just letting you know that, but just wanting to show you one of the tools. So this is the tool I mentioned, which is a summary of stakeholder, of tools of stakeholder engagement and monitoring and evaluation. So all of the tools that Pinellas is using is listed here, which are 35. So some of these are just data sources. As in the previous presentation, Florida Charts was mentioned. I love Florida Charts. If you haven't been in there, I guess now there'll be another presentation about Florida Charts. There was, okay, so sorry, I lost track of my thoughts here. So anyways, this is just one tool that's part of the monitoring and evaluation plan for Pinellas. And next slide. Okay, again, I do not expect anybody to read specifically what's on here. It's way too much information. But however, I want you to see the products of what was created, and a lot of effort was put into these. So these are logic models for the diagnose and the treatment pillars. And just briefly, these logic models have the 2025 goals. They have the objectives that align up with the local indicators. They have data sources listed. And then the strategies for the plan are also listed on the left-hand corner. So it's very well organized here and shows the relationship between all of these variables to help understand you know, what is going on in Pinellas and how is everything organized. Next slide. And these are the following two prevent and respond pillar logic models. So again, organized the same way, but just focused for each of these pillars. And next slide. Okay, so these were the last, I guess, expectations of what the monitoring and evaluation work would do, you know, participating in meetings and calls. And again, I thank you so much, Pinellas EHE team. They were meeting with me multiple times during the week and listening to me speak and all of my thoughts, and were super patient with me and providing me information. And it was just really, really great to work with Pinellas. And the finalization of this plan, rehashing the plan, it was, you know, completed, very organized with the 4 pillars, 4 goals, 13 objectives, 25 strategies, and 62 activities. So tons of relevant information in there. And I truly look forward to the success and the progress that Pinellas will make in these activities. Next slide. And again, for more, see your Pinellas EHE team. And I am very sure that you will see these tools again in much greater detail. And you will probably be using some of these tools. So there you go. And any questions for me? And, you know,
within the room. Any questions online? There was a question in the chat by Ms. Sylvia Hubbard. Will we be sharing the EHE data slides? The answer is yes. Any additional questions for Dr. Janelle?
Please give a round of applause for Dr. Janelle, please. Thank you so much, Dr. Janelle. We did all this yesterday, so you know how we feel about you, but I'm going to say it anyway. She was very much a pleasure to work with, and I would highly recommend her for any monitoring and evaluation needs that anyone may have in the future. We can give you your contact information so that you all might discuss. I hope I'm not putting you out there, Dr. Janelle, like that, but I think it's very important that people are aware of your talents. All right, next slide, please. Speaking of talents, we will now hear from Ms. Leisha McKinley Beach regarding Risk to Reasons, which is an exciting campaign that I was fortunate enough to witness the launch and participate, and I'm very excited for you all to hear about this campaign.
Thank you so much, Chris. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, the people in virtual world here, okay, I see it. Y'all know I need you to talk back to me. I'm going to be brief, but before I get started with this, I too, Chris, want to acknowledge Janelle's contribution to an amazing monitoring and evaluation plan for Pinellas County. I am extremely excited about what you all will be able to generate because of the plan that she has put together for you. I'm going to echo Chris's sentiments about, I have even used my social media, Janelle, if you haven't seen it yet, just to talk about what an amazing experience it was working with you. But I wasn't brought on to be Janelle's cheerleader today. I was asked to talk about Risk to Reasons, another project that I am extremely happy to be a part of. It is a VIV initiative. And speaking of VIV, I don't know if Marco, your VIV representative, is in the audience. I didn't see him in virtual world. But if he is there, I just want to acknowledge him as well for being a part of this amazing team that saw the need for us to be reframing this conversation. Next slide. So even though this Risk to Reasons initiative is focused on addressing prevention and care needs for women, I want you to hear this not only through the frame of its impact on women and HIV prevention services, but I also want you to hear this in the context of another virus that we're dealing with known as monkeypox. Next slide. So when this group came together, we were talking about what are some of the challenges with women, in particular Black women. And when I'm using the term women, I am referring to women in all of our diversity. So anyone who identifies as such, I am speaking to you. And so that term risk is very stigmatizing. It has always been. I understand it coming from the public health background of spending much of my career in health departments in Florida and Georgia. I understand why we use that terminology, but the challenge with risk is the same challenge that I have with the term MSM, men who have sex with men. Those are very health epidemiology focused terms that weren't meant to be trickled into community because those terms are very stigmatizing. I'm not talking about addressing HIV care and treatment needs to Black men who have sex with men. I'm talking about care and treatment needs to same gender loving men. They're more than just the people they have sex with. And when we're talking about sexual activity and prevention strategies for women, specifically Black women, I'm not a risk. My activities are not a risk. They may cause me to assess the tools that I need to prevent the spread of HIV or other STIs. Next slide. And so we want to begin to focus on disassociating our public with that terminology. This is a group of the women that I was very privileged to work with for about a year, talking about this very conversation about how we reframe the word risk. Next slide. And so as a part of that reframing, we talked about what would new messages look like? What do new messages look like? And how are we increasing awareness and actions of such? There are those of us who have been on this journey a long time as it relates to HIV prevention. And we have seen the change in terminology through the years. But there's also a need for creation of new content so that when women are assessing where they are as it relates to their sexual health, there isn't that shame or judgment from internal, because we've created these framings that cause women to have internal shame and judgment because I'm talking about my sexiness, I'm talking about my sexual activity, and we want to reframe that. And then also, can we put a little bit of money where our mouth is about what this reframing looks like? Next slide. So a couple of things have happened. We've had this amazing work group that is continuing to be champions for reframing risk to reason. Some of them are in Montreal right now for IAC. I chose to still be here. That's true. That is a fact. Pinellas has become my adopted family, so don't make me choose over something else with Pinellas. It wins out every time. There was a grant announcement that I do hope that some of you were aware of. I hope that all of you were aware of. It just closed a couple weeks ago. $5 million for community grants to focus on this thing, this one thing that we're talking about, and that was super exciting. There's a communication and engagement guide. I am going to put the link in the chat. I'll show a slide where you can go and download that guide. That's important for providers. That's important for us who are serving the public. And these continuing conversations and conferences and activities and spaces like Chris and Nicole made for me today to talk to community about this. Next slide. And so let's focus on reasons. We are not naive that I'm just going to miraculously create healthy sexual outcomes. We recognize that part of this reframing is teaching women how to assess what our prevention needs are, when we might need them, and be courageous enough to bring them up with our clinical providers, even if they don't bring them up to us. And so you will see the download code where you can go and download the guides on how do I have these conversations as an individual, but also as a provider, how do I bring up these conversations where they're not stigmatizing? Next slide. And just to give you some examples, let's look at the language that we want to retire. Women at risk for HIV. Risky behaviors, high risk sex, shame and blame, men on the down low. So brothers, we were even thinking about you as a part of this conversation. And of course, one of the biggest barriers that we see is fear. But now if we remove something, we got to replace it with something. And so looking at some of these replacement phrases, women with reasons for HIV prevention. I love it. I love it. I love that term. I've got my reasons. My reasons are my own, whole person health. There is more to me than what is happening below my waist. And so framing it in a way that my overall sexual health starts from my mind to all those other components of me that bring such pleasure. Next slide. And so how do we get more folks engaged with this conversation and reconsidering risk? We look at these community grants. I'm really excited to see agencies that have been awarded. I believe that announcement is coming out in the next month or so. We got to train organizations and providers how to serve Black women. Let's not make the blanket statement that if you are a healthcare provider that you know how to serve Black women, because that is not the case. And changing this narrative where women don't feel fear about having to talk about sexual health, but I am empowered whether my provider is uncomfortable or not. And I'm going to be a part of the conversation, and I'm going to help navigate what is the best options and best tools for me. And I think next slide, I think we're coming up on the final slide. We can go to the next slide. So as you go to the link and you download the guide, there are some amazing tools that you can use for your social media. We can change this narrative. We're not going to get to the end of the HIV epidemic and women not be a part of that amazing journey of seeing a reduction of new HIV cases. So I just want to thank you for your time and listen, and I'm asking you to take action. Use the tools that are provided to help us reframe risk to reason. Thank you.
Really? Wait. Thank you all so much. So now we're going to hear from the incredible, the remarkable, Mr. J. Carl Devine, who will be, thank you, yes. Mr. Carl, you heard how eager they were for that hand clap, right? I didn't even finish. They're very ready. Yes, we can clap. Yes. They were so eager to clap, and I would be too. Mr. Carl's going to take a few minutes to talk about some things.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for coming, and welcome to Sanderland Center. We are glad that we could host this event. It has been an excitingly busy and chaotic time for us. Banyan Tree has hosted several events to address some of the issues concerning Black same-gender loving men. I did not create slides because I'm sliding in here myself. Chris said he sent me some stuff in June, and I'm like, there's nothing going on in June but pride. I don't know nothing else. And so if I miss something, people forgive me because I'm old and human, I think. Banyan Tree deals with same-gender loving men. We provide our services particularly for Black and Latino men. And we have been successful thus far in being able to create events for that population. We do events every month. We took the month of July to rest a little bit, but we have done 11 events in 11 months. And that's what we do because it has to be consistent. The message has to be consistent. And when we are doing it once in a while, people are not getting the message properly. We're not doing it properly. We've got to change the way we approach it to deal with the people in our communities. Banyan Tree does most of our events around cultural events. When we do Kwanzaa, we talk about health in a cultural way. We do Juneteenth, we do cultural events, we do things that Black people are already attracted to and inject healthy lifestyles. We pass out a lot of condoms, even have to teach people sometimes how to use them, even in this day and time. We did National Black HIV Awareness Day. We did a sex party, y'all. There are those who came with the impression that we were going to strip and perform acts. What we did was talk about people performing those acts and how to do it without infecting oneself or someone else. I think we have to use the language that people understand in order to get them to listen to the messages that we have to give them. If it's always done from a clinical point, they're not going to get it. The people on the streets don't know nothing about some of the stuff we talk about, but they do know how to screw. And if we can teach them how to screw without getting screwed, then we will have done something. And that's the purpose of what we do. That's the purpose of prevention. Teaching people how to get what they want without harming themselves and other people. And we have to use the language that they will understand, that they respond to. And so sometimes I use language that can be offensive to some people. And I say to you, fuck you. We need to get rid of the stigma that we have within ourselves before we can teach other people how to get rid of the stigma they have for us. We've got to teach ourselves how to love ourselves again because we have forgotten how to do that. We've gotten so wrapped up in other people's stuff that we've forgotten our own. This is about Black men dying. This is about Black women dying from diseases that they don't have to die from. We can change that narrative because we have to change that narrative within ourselves, and we can do that. And that's what Banyan Tree is trying to teach other people how to do. We have done a sex party. We do St. Pete Black Pride, people. I hear all of this about St. Pete Pride. Yes, they're the big white folks with all the money, but they don't reach us because Pride was not designed for us. So we have to create events for ourselves that we can attach ourselves to. I don't have it on today. I have a t-shirt that talks about same gender loving Black people. We can have pride in being who we are too. We don't have to go by somebody else's decision as what pride is. Pride should be something that we create for ourselves within our own community, that we can deal with, that we can respond to, that we can live with. The rainbow does not include me. And when I saw they had put the black and the brown on it, I'm like, that's an afterthought. I ain't no damn afterthought. Don't be treating me like that, and I will not accept it. And I ask you to do the same thing. Respond to these things when they're talking about the languages that we use. I must tell you this. I had to, and most of you who know me know I don't bite my tongue a lot. I had to sit back and think the other day when I heard these white boys talking about the fact that MSM was a language that the CDC put in and it took away gay and bisexual. I didn't say anything because it would have caused a real rift at that point. You have to pick your battles and know when to fight them. MSM is a term used, and I was at the CDC to help fight for that term because when HIV and AIDS was being pushed in the Black community, they were talking about gay and bisexual men. All the men who have sex with other men are not gay and bisexual. And we had to let the CDC know that my trade ain't gay. That's trade. He going home to his girlfriend or his wife. He ain't gay. Yeah. You have to know the language of the people that you are working with. If you're speaking one language and they're speaking another, the message is not getting out. And we have to get rid of some of our properness in order to reach the people that we really need to reach. We're planning another sex party. It will not deal with sex in the same way. We are talking about sodomy and sodomy laws. And may I say to the females, the sodomy laws include oral sex. Most of us think it's anal sex. But the sodomy laws in America include oral sex, and we need to address the fact that all of us who are same gender loving, and this refers to straight men and women too. The act of oral sex is against the law. In your bedroom, in your house, they're telling you you can't do certain things in your house. That's crazy as hell. We need to educate people about sex and sexual behavior. Unfortunately, for some, they don't want to know nothing but what the Bible say. But they don't do it properly, and they're forcing us to live under circumstances of which we have no control. I'm not a Christian, people, and I don't want your religious views pushed on me merely because you got the power to do it. We need to learn to take care of ourselves in a way that's going to be beneficial to us. Some of us don't know what our best interests are. So we have to teach people what our best interests are. And our best interest, good health. You can't get wealthy if you ain't healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carl. I don't know about y'all, but I caught quite a few gems just now that I'll be carrying with me and sharing. So thank you so much. Your perspective and experience, everything, you are a treasure to this community, and we really appreciate you. So yes, another round of applause, please. And we really appreciate you hanging in with us on time. I know we may go over if we're not already, but we're going to keep moving. If you have to step out or if you have to log out, we completely understand. This is being recorded and the link will be sent out in a future date. But now we're going to move on to a few minutes with the Florida Harm Reduction Collective, excuse me. With
Hey,
Shelby
how am I supposed to
Peters
follow?
and
How am I supposed to
Alexa
follow that up?
Mutchler.
Thank you. I don't know how I'm supposed to follow that great presentation up. Going after that, but I'm
I was just
happy.
thinking that.
I'm happy to speak for just a few minutes. Many partners are already on this call, so a lot of you guys might already be aware of us. My name is Shelby Metters. I'm with the Florida Harm Reduction Collective. We are a statewide nonprofit, but we do work here in Pinellas County. We live here in Pinellas County. Next slide, please. So we're just going to quickly talk about some of the exciting things we have going on in this county. We are starting some really cool initiatives with some new grants that we have. We've been around for about 3 years. We started in 2019. We got our 501c3 status last year, and we're comprised of all of the statewide recovery community organizations, overdose prevention programs, needle exchanges or syringe service programs. We work with over 30 counties now, and we have almost six operating syringe service programs with the one in Pinellas County. Idea Pinellas is opening at the end of next month. And I see a shout out to Amanda, because I see Amanda on the call with PERC. And they're running the exchange that's opening, early fall or late summer. Next slide, please. So a little about us, our vision: we work to decrease overdose rates, HIV, hepatitis C, soft tissue infections, really meeting people where they're at, whether they currently use drugs or they no longer use drugs, they want treatment or they're in recovery, really kind of facilitating those relationships there to make sure people have what they need to stay safe, have the prevention tools they need, again, testing, really working locally with the syringe exchange program, and then expanding those across the state. As we go. So we do a lot of things. Next slide, please. There's now 7 of us that work for the Florida Harm Reduction Collective. The 3 that are listed here, me and 2 of my coworkers, are the ones that we are going to present on this call. Tim couldn't make it today, but I do have Alexa, who's our HIV self-testing program manager. But just, this is us. I used to work for DCF, the Department of Children and Families. I ran a statewide overdose prevention program. I was a project director for a SAMHSA grant. I came on board to the collective this year. I was the first executive director of our organization, and since then we've been running. Tim Santamore has 30 years experience working with harm reduction and HIV, starting back in the late 80s in New York. And so, he saw his friends dying and jumped right in to help. And I wish he was here to talk. If you've never met him, a lot of people may know him on this call, but I encourage you to chat with him about his background. And then Alexa, please introduce yourself as well.
I introduced myself a little bit before. My name is Alexa Mutchler. I run the HIV self-testing program here. My background really is in economics, and I'm kind of jumping full force into this harm reduction nonprofit world, trying to fill the gap and really help with, like operations, organization, that kind of stuff. So really excited to help.
Happy to have you. Next slide, please. So some of the other stuff that we do, we are funded to do vaccine navigation through AIDS United, working with people who use drugs and sex workers and linking them to vaccination, and also listening to the hesitancy piece. So really we're funded to take surveys and to gather that data around why people who use drugs aren't getting vaccinated, whether that's COVID or any flu, any of the vaccines, because we have a whole range that we're trying to expand to. And that vaccine navigation is specifically in Duval County and Marion County. We do operate the statewide Narcan distribution program. It's mail-based. So anybody that no questions asked, low barrier, wants to request a free Narcan kit, we run that statewide program working with the Department of children and families to make sure we can mail everyone a kit that they need one. Technical assistance, like I mentioned, we work with over 30 counties right now to offer harm reduction consulting services, whether they want to operate a syringe service program, or if they just want their staff to be trained on harm reduction, or they want to run a Narcan program, and any of those types of services. And then we just started last month working with the Department of Health and the CDC Foundation, where we're doing self-testing. So we operate in most of the EHE counties in Florida. We're also making that mail-based. And in Pinellas County, since we live here where we're operating in Pinellas with the EHE as well, getting those kits mailed out and working to increase the linkages to care, and really just kind of increasing that the return rate of results, and then linking them with the SSP here, working with PERC and Idea Pinellas to get those kits out into the community, specifically people who use drugs and or sex workers, because there's a large community that people don't really talk about here, and we do have a lot of sex workers that do need a lot of services, and they're not coming forward. Next slide, please. And then I already mentioned this, but just the grants that I just reviewed: AIDS United, Gilead, CDC Foundation, Comer Family Foundation, all some of the big grants that we have, and we continue to grow every day. Next slide. Awesome. I'll have Alexa take it from here.
Yeah, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about our self-testing, HIV self-testing program that the CDC Foundation is funding. Shelby mentioned it a little bit. We work really closely with the SSPs in the area, specifically 7 EHE counties across the state of Florida, as well as peer outreach workers individually in each county. We know historically it's pretty difficult to get people not to take the kits from us, but really to have them respond back with their results. And so we're hoping that, we already have these SSPs up and running. And, well, we don't run them, but the state of Florida has SSPs up and running, and then us as the collective have partnerships already with these peer outreach workers who are already in the community and have rapport and trust built up with people who use drugs and sex workers out in their own communities. We're hoping that rapport will allow us to get a higher response rate so that we can really collect that data in an anonymous, low barrier way. I'm currently, I do this, but I also built our website and maintain our website. And I'm currently working on a landing page on our website where no matter what results came from the test, there are resources there for the whole state, no matter where a participant lives in the state. So they can anonymously tell us their results, or they can let us know that it was reactive, or they got confirmatory tests and they're HIV positive, or even if they're HIV negative, we'll have resources for them to find PrEP or PEP in their area. So that's really, we're really trying to fill in this gap in the market. I mean, obviously we know there's so many people in this room, virtually and in person, who are working really hard to end the epidemic, which is wonderful, but we're trying to fill the gap of people, specifically people who use drugs and sex workers, who can sometimes become, overlooked in this category. And so that's really what we're focusing on with this grant. The goals I have outlined here. We have a goal set to procure and distribute 1,000 HIV self-test kits. We have about half of those procured already, ready to start being disseminated into the communities. We are also planning on doing 1,000 or more hygiene kit distribution, and working to establish 6 safe spaces. Most of those will probably be the syringe exchanges, but really, in theory, the peer outreach worker themselves could also be a safe space where the participant could take the test right there with them if they don't want to do it alone, or someone they can go back to in a confidential manner, and just even if it's just an ear to talk to. And then we also have some other miscellaneous things we're doing with the grant. We have to do a social media campaign, which I'm really excited about. And we do outreach materials with education, educational pieces for both those we're giving kits to and really anybody else. A large part of this is trying to reduce the stigma associated with HIV, especially amongst people who use drugs and sex workers. So that's a big part of this campaign as well. So we're really excited to get started, and the next slide, which you can go to now, has our information on it. So you can reach out to me, Shelby, Tim, go to our website with any questions or any way you want to get involved with us.
Thanks, Alexa. And thank you. That's all we have, but feel free to reach out again. Any questions, we're happy to partner, or if you want to get the word out, or just follow us on Facebook. We'll be using that a lot, social media, just to spread the word.
Thank you, Alexa and Shelby. We're very, very excited to partner with you and to for you all to join us in this great work. So thank you very much. Next slide, please. So the last report that we have before we wrap up, we're going to hear from Rashard Williams, who is the HIV Prevention Manager at Can Community Health and also serves as World AIDS Day Committee Chair. So we've already begun working on World AIDS Day, and he's just going to provide a brief update on the event.
Thank you so much. And hello. Thank you so much again, and thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Great presentations, great information. So thank you to everyone who's presented and everyone who is sitting in the audience. Like Chris said, I'm just going to give some brief updates about where we are with World AIDS Day. I'm sorry, I don't have a nice slide deck. I feel like I should after all those amazing presentations. So I'm just going to keep it short and sweet, but I do hope to be able to give you like a debriefing slide set maybe after the event has taken place. So as Chris said, we have been meeting. We started meeting, I believe, around April of this year, just to get a head start. And I'm grateful that we did do that, because we've been able to identify some potential challenges, and we've been able to get ahead of the game, actually, as it relates to things like location, for example. So World AIDS Day 2022 is scheduled to be celebrated on Saturday, December 3rd, 2022. The location tentatively is scheduled to be at the Center for Health Equity at 2333 34th Street South. The reason I say it's tentative is because we're still waiting on the approval from the location. I just got an email just today saying that we should hear back a little later this week, if not at the beginning of next week. It is up for review for their board meeting. So hopefully we'll get some good news by then. But I do believe that's going to be a great location. The board believes it's going to be a great location. The theme for this year's World AIDS Day event is going to be Access Granted, GOATed. So, and we came up with Access Granted, or actually we didn't come up with Access Granted. We just used that again from last year. The chair, Carl Devine, he and the board came up with World AIDS Day Access Granted last year, and we loved the theme. So we wanted to just continue that and add GOATed onto it, because our focus population for this year is going to be youth and young adults. Really more leaning towards young adults, simply because of all the restrictions and the red tape that we might encounter with trying to reach the youth, but more so young adults. Our goal is to create a advisory board that is comprised of young adults. We really want to get their buy-in. We really want them to endorse the events and become ambassadors. Thus, we're also looking for volunteers to be present for the event. We know that young folks are going to follow young folks, and young folks are the best persons to really promote this event. The event type is going to be a block party / health fair. So if any of you all have ever been to a block party before, y'all already know how it goes. It's outside, it's music, it's food. It's just really a good time. And we're thinking that this is going to be a great way to engage younger folks and the young community here in Pinellas. We hope to include services like health screenings for HIV, Hep C, of course, with our partner organizations. We are looking to have a Black pediatrician available that day, as well as a Black mental health provider. So we want to, include some of those stigmatizing services, because we really want to normalize HIV testing. We want to normalize conversations around sexual health. We really want our young folks to feel comfortable and confident in having these discussions, so that we can really change the way people are viewing this. When it comes to some of the other events or games that we plan on having, because with young folks, we want to make sure we keep them engaged. We have some wonderful suggestions like a dunk tank and pie throwing and condom tosses, just to name a few of the activities that we're going to have present. And then we also want to do awards, of course. So we want to acknowledge some young folks who are doing some great things in their community, some trailblazers, some of the volunteers, maybe some of the young folks who are a part of the advisory board, and even service providers as well as some of our community partners. So that's just a little bit about where we are. And I encourage any of my other board members, Rose might be on as well. I know Yashika is on, Chris. I just missed the most recent meeting. I wasn't in office at the time, so I don't know what any updates are from our most recent meeting last week. So if anybody else has anything, they can jump in and help me out. But that's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Thank you again, Prashad, for those wonderful updates. I also have some updates as far as, or just reminders as far as EHE. I always, or myself or Chris, always give you guys some reminders and housekeeping events. So please be reminded that the EHE consultant team, myself and Chris and Ms. Dion, we always do a bi-weekly newsletter, which provides the community with updates on all of our partners events, any community events that we have going on. So we open it up to you all who are virtual, but also in the room. I think the camera's a little over there, but that's okay. If you are in the room as well or on virtually, please make sure that you send any content that you would like people to attend to Pinellas EHE at flhealth.gov so that we can add that to the newsletter. And then if you have had events and you have pictures or you want it to be noted, please make sure that you send that to us as well so that we can highlight all the great work that is being done in the community related to EHE. We also, actually, it's not resuming soon. We do have office hours that are up every Tuesday. They are Tuesday from 2 to 4 p.m. So if you have technical assistance questions related to projects you are doing in the community or additional assistance that you might need from myself or my counterpart, Mr. Chris Walker, who's been facilitating the meeting, please come on to those office hours. They're virtual. They are, again, via Teams meeting. So those are open to the public. And then the next thing is our website. So please feel free to make sure that you take advantage of the EHE website, which is www.pinellas.ehe.org. It has a plethora of information on it related to your upcoming events, as well as all of the newsletters that are available, resources for the community, STI information, updates, all of that kind of stuff as well. And then our next EHE Council meeting will be Thursday, October 27th. Next slide, please. Okay, some additional upcoming community meetings that we also like to support. The West Central Florida Ryan White Care Council, we also support, and the next one is going to be August 3rd, Wednesday, August 3rd from 1:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. This is going to be at the Metro location at Tampa, Florida. You can contact Katie there for more information. And again, these slides will go out. Additionally, the PPP or the Pinellas Planning Partnership will have their next meeting on August 18th. The location for that is to be announced right now. Does anybody have additional information on that? Metro in St. Pete? Okay, it will be located at Metro in St. Pete, and we will definitely send out an update of these slides with that information in it. Okay, next slide, please. All right, that's it for me.
And round of applause for Nicole, please. So special thanks to the Burke Cares. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to Pinellas Planning Partnership as well. We greatly appreciate your support. Next slide, please. Oh, also, thank you so much to the AIDS Healthcare Foundation and Banyan Tree for providing this delicious lunch for us today. Thank you, Mr. Carl, and everyone. We really appreciate you nourishing us. Greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions regarding EHE, please feel free to email us. Darius, is Charlene still here? Okay. Okay. So I really wanted, Charlene's so good at closing out these meetings. That's why we have a sort of a standing piece for her to kind of say and come and give some special parting words. Darius, did you?
So Charlene is usually our closer, but I'll stand in the gap. I think she had to take a very important phone call. But we would like to thank every one of you all who thought it not robbery to take time out of your day to come and be with us. Those of you all who are watching virtually. I saw some people on Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us. We know we have some people that drove a little ways to come be with us today. Thank you. Thank all of you all for the work that you do. This is how we are going to reduce new incidences of HIV. This is how we're going to reduce new incidences, of STIs in our community by coming together, by pooling our resources and locking arms to beat this thing, because we can do it if we lock arms and work together. So thank you all. It is a privilege and an honor to be here. And stay tuned for our next meeting. Thank you to the Bird Cares, who has done such an excellent job for us today. If you looking to be involved in the community, get involved with the Bird Cares. Okay. So thank you all. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over. I can get the benediction. Okay. So thank you all. Thank you once again to my team, everyone who's done such a great job in supporting this effort. And we will see you all next meeting. We will send the slides out from all the presentations today. We will send those out. If you did not sign the sign-in sheet for everyone in person, please do so. If we do not have your email address, please send it to us. If you wrote it on the sign-in sheet, we have it. For those of you all who are watching virtually, if you can email us at Pinellas, EHE@flhealth.gov, and we'll get your information if we don't already have it. And with that being said, we are free to go. All right, thank you.